Guys, I don't know what to say. I'm going to say this before we run the intro. Kyle Shanahan, I have some words for you. And if you want to roast your team, come in the chat. All of that and more after this. I can't this show. I really can't. What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Camper Report. I am your host, Benjamin Kamperman, and today we've got a great show. I'm like Dwight Schrute in The Office. There was a scene in The Office where Dwight Schrute said, "My feelings regenerate twice the speed of a normal man's feelings." So I'm over this Super Bowl loss. Not really. I'm not over the Super Bowl loss, but I'm a lot better shape than I was yesterday. Let me just tell you that. Joseph, here joining me today is Joseph Kamperman of the Long John podcast. He hasn't posted in a while, but you can also follow him on Instagram as well. How are you doing today, Joseph? It is good to have you on. I just realized that I am not streaming this to your YouTube. I am streaming it to your X account, which I'll start streaming it to your YouTube. But how are you doing today? It's good to have you on. Promote yourself a little bit because I know you do have an Instagram. And yeah, we'll get to it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for having me, first of all. And getting back into the swing of things slowly but surely. Probably going to kick up some things here in the next couple of weeks. It's been an interesting 6 months. So I took sort of a hiatus the last half of the year and pretty much missed the majority of the season. But I am planning on kicking some things back up as time allows. I run a podcast, the Long John podcast, planning on kicking that back up. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, at the Long John Pod, and at the Long John Podcast, respectively. Also check out my podcasts on Spotify and Apple Music. But of course, a lot of things are outdated, so I'm excited to get things kicked back up. I'm ready to sort of throw some shade. I absolutely love Kyle Shanahan. So let's get back into it.
So, yeah, I mean, I think, again, if you guys want to go check out his Instagram, YouTube channel, those are all in the description. And so go and do that. But let's first say hi to some of the comments, to some of the people in here. Carcast says, yo. Jesse DeVries says hi. Wanda Brown says why the 49ers will not go back to the Super Bowl. And he also says, last fucking thing I want to hear. We'll get onto that point. The title of the show is a little bit clickbait because we're going to basically start it off with this topic. So let's get to it. Who is to blame for this Super Bowl loss on the 49ers' part? And do you think they will be back in the Super Bowl next few years? I'm kind of referring to. What do you think, kind of your initial takeaways of this game? Yeah.
The answer is no. They're not going to be back next year. I know it's probably going to be an unpopular take because they are incredibly talented. I pulled up a statistic. I love to pull this up every year because it just makes you appreciate whether it's painful enough for Eagles and 49ers fans to hear. It makes you appreciate the dominant Patriots run and the dominant Chiefs run. We've got a substantial amount of Super Bowl teams, obviously, that have come to play the big game and have not actually made it back. And I love to pull up these statistics every year because it just makes you realize how rare it is to make it even back to the dance, let alone win it again. So of the last 57 Super Bowl champions, 17 missed the playoffs. So that's already almost 33% of your teams are missing the playoffs. 5 of them lost in the wild card round, 13 lost in the divisional, 7 lost in the conference championship game. Only 6 made it back, and only 9 have actually repeated and won the Super Bowl. And of course, you can imagine which ones those are. So obviously, the Chiefs and the Chiefs and the Patriots and the 49ers and the Cowboys, but those are years ago. But like, it's just such a small sample size. I mean, take the Eagles, for example. I thought that they had a much better roster going in, and they lose in the wild card round. Of course, I think coaching had a large portion to play in that, but it's so rare to get back. And so to answer the latter part of that question, will they be back? I think the only reason why they have a legitimate chance to be back is because of Brock Purdy and the fact that he's not being paid an exorbitant amount of money. They've got him for another 2 years. So if you're going to be back, you better, the window is now, but I think this is towards the end of the show or later on in the show. I just think that there's certain pieces that are not going to be able to be addressed. And I think that's going to be one of the reasons. The NFC is not getting any worse. The Lions, I think the Eagles, the Cowboys, these are all teams that are improving. I'm going to throw the Cowboys out of that one. But this is the reality of it. The 49ers have a massive uphill battle, and it's just because of statistics. It's just statistically really difficult to get back, and it makes you appreciate the Mahomes run, especially this year, much more than I think anyone really wants to admit. So,
yeah, it's very true. I'm gonna kind of say what everyone else, not everyone else has been saying, but I will say that you've also got to look at this team, and we're pressed up against the cap.
Yep.
Unless we make a trade or kind of a drastic move, we're going to have a very similar team that we do next year. We're going to have to hit on a lot of the picks that we have this year in the draft.
Yep.
First round pick. I believe we traded our second round pick to the Commanders for Chase Young. I think it was, or maybe it was no, third round. Okay. I think we have first, second, and then we're going to get a compensatory pick for the third round last year for D'Amico Ryans last year. That pick counts for this year. So we're going to get a third round pick. So we have a lot of picks. We have, for the first 3 rounds, we have picks in every single round. So it's going to depend on
11 picks. Hold my word.
Yeah. So we're going to be able to probably even trade up in the first round as well. But the thing is Debo this year wasn't as productive. If you're looking at a trade to do, I would trade Debo Samuel. Wasn't as productive. Him and Christian McCaffrey have a very similar skill set in this Chiefs game. And really all year, he can't really win one-on-one unless it's a terrible cornerback. There was a deep play that Brock Purdy, and we'll get to him later, guys. Stick around for that because we'll get to Brock Purdy later. There was a deep throw at the beginning of the second quarter to Debo Samuel in the end zone. I think we were at the Chiefs 40. We threw it deep down the field to Debo Samuel in the 49ers end zone. And the ball was perfectly thrown, but Debo just couldn't get separation on the cornerback.
That was a great play by the corner. McDuffie.
Yeah, no, it was a really good. The corner played it really well. He looked back. Edwards. It was the Chiefs. I will give them credit. Like, I am only here today to rip on my team because the Chiefs played a really good game. Their cornerbacks are no joke. I knew that they were going to be no joke, right? But Debo Samuel, if I were to make a trade, it would be him because his stock is still pretty high, but I just don't think he fits this team anymore. You also have to consider the fact that Trent Williams is getting 1 year older. Christian McCaffrey, we all know it. Running backs don't last very long in the NFL. And I'm not trying to put his career down.
No, but he's been really,
But he's been really good. And he did not have a single injury this year. That is very rare. The injury luck is another thing you have to take into consideration. This year, we had amazing injury luck. This year was the year that we were the most healthy that we have ever been in the tenure of Kyle Shanahan. And really, I've ever seen. As being a 49ers fan, I've never seen us more healthy this year. You really think that injury luck is going to continue into next year? Not only are we a year older, but our injury luck is not going to be as good. Christian McCaffrey is a year older. He turns 28. I believe he's 28 this next year. Dre Greenlaw tore his Achilles, most likely, which, by the way, I want to give a heartfelt shout out to Dre Greenlaw. Did you see that video, how he tore it?
Yeah, and that was I was going to discuss that if we got down a rabbit trail.
Okay.
But
well, I mean, we can talk about
awful.
it. Well, it was.
A lot of people are talking about how the preparation. There's a lot. I saw a video, a lot of pressure on the calves, and how they're actually basically there's a lot of player science that tells players to put a lot of weight on their heel, and it's not actually practicing the movement. And so a lot of players will jump up and down to get their calves loose. And more than likely, it's just extended use of that slowly tears it. It's really unfortunate. I will say that he is, I think, the unsung heart and soul of that defense because of his physicality. And he goes down, it changes a lot of things. And I don't actually really think people realize how much it changed. Because Fred Warner is your physical guy, but Dre Greenlaw is your smash mouth hitter. And I know that's sort of the same as physical, but there's just such a big difference in their playing styles. And they are just so much about Dre Greenlaw's game is the reason why that defense is fueled and was so good this year. He just brings that aggressive nature. I fucking hate the dude. He's just an aggressive animal. And
you hate him because he got your security guard.
Absolutely.
Suspended.
The Eagles' downfall is directly tied to the fact that Dre Greenlaw had Big Dom banned from the Super Bowl. Big Dom shows up yesterday and the 49ers lose. And you know what? Big Dom was coming for vengeance, even though his team played like crap in the playoffs.
Yeah, he's the tone setter on the scrimmage, line of scrimmage.
Yep.
That's why the Chiefs were able to get away with so many screens late in that game. We'll get to a little bit more of who's to blame. Before we leave this Dre Greenlaw kind of subtopic, and I do want to get to the comments, so we'll get to that in just a second. But before we leave this Dre Greenlaw, I do want to say it's tough because the Achilles injuries are 9 months, and a lot of times, I mean, that's midway through the season next year. So going back to my point of the Niners need to draft well, that's another need that we didn't think we needed, but that's another need that we need to address, because knowing that Dre Greenlaw probably won't be back for the start of next year. And just for the person in general, that's kind of for the organization, but just for the person in general, that's really shit. Like I pray for him, because it's like, this is a kid who has been through, if you read about his story, he had a really rough childhood for the first, after the first year that he was in the league, but his second and third year, he had some terrible injury history. And then he's been healthy for the last 2 years. And he's been a big part of, he should have had a Pro Bowl this year, didn't get on the Pro Bowl team, but he should have been an All-Pro and a Pro Bowler this year. And it's just, for him, I hope he just stays mentally okay, because this is a huge injury and
really tough injury.
A huge loss. So
tough one to overcome. Yeah.
Kyle is to be blamed. Bad play calls at critical time. O-line was trash and didn't give Purdy enough time. Only 4 O-linemen drafted in the last 3 years. Yes. It was, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah, I think he hit on it. I can't explain to you how much the oversights were exposed in the Super Bowl yesterday. I've been saying for over a year and a half of being on your show that they've got to address the O-line position. You guys have some picks next year, I think, because it takes a lot to address. But your 2 third rounds and your 2 fourth rounds, I would draft 4 linemen. And I say that because I think you can get decent guys, and that's what they need. The line was so bad in some instances. But again, what has Kyle Shanahan done well for the last couple of years? He has managed to scheme his players in a certain way so that those deficiencies are covered. And Chris Jones basically did this to them yesterday. I mean, that's essentially what happened.
Yeah, and Karlaftis.
But I want to make a point to say this, and I was funny because it was a debate as the game was ending. 3rd and 4. Okay, first of all, starting overtime, they decide to go for it. They decide to they win the toss. Hear me out. This is a bold take, but they win the toss and they take it. I would have deferred. The new overtime rules allow for you to be able to respond. Defer. If the Chiefs get a field goal, you know what's in front of you. The Chiefs knew that they didn't have to get a touchdown. Their defense had been playing well. So they went down the field knowing all we have to do is kick a field goal. I know it puts a lot of pressure on Purdy, but I think it actually is a little bit reverse psychology. Yes, the pressure's on Purdy to score if the Chiefs had already scored a touchdown. But on the flip side, Purdy is pressured to score because he doesn't know what the Chiefs are going to score. Gets even better. 3rd and 4 in overtime. You are given 3 timeouts. What in the world? 8 freaking minutes have been bled off the clock. And Kyle Shanahan on 3rd and 4, the biggest play of your season, does not call a timeout. I don't care if you saw something differently. I don't care what you saw on the field. You have a I call him a rookie because the truth is he played 5 games in the thing. But you have a young quarterback. You have a young team on some areas of that offense. Why in the world would you save the last part of your season and not call a timeout? Jake Brendel, the guard, pulled wrong. There was some sort of misassignment. Brandon Ayuk was wide open in the end zone. Everyone's talking about Jennings was going to be open. No. Brandon Ayuk put L'Jarius Sneed in the grave on that play. L'Jarius checked
Hey, he's
out.
the best route runner in the league, one of the best.
Well, and what I want to say is, what were you doing? He needed about 1 second, maybe even half a second more to throw the ball. And Chris Jones is basically like this. I mean, on 3rd and 4, somehow the best defensive lineman in the league, or one of the best, is now not blocked. I mean, but the problem is this. Kyle Shanahan has done such an exceptional job scheming players to cover up deficiencies. It just blew my mind that on 3rd and 4, there's not a timeout. We're not even talking. I'd understand. I would genuinely understand.
Yeah.
If as a 49ers player, you only have 3 minutes off the clock, you say there's 12 minutes on the clock. We're not blowing it. No, you took the whole half of this overtime period. You weren't getting the ball back. This was the game. And if you did get the ball back, overtime restarts again. Like if they had kicked a field goal, it's whoever scores next. And so I just don't understand it. It really blew my mind. I'm sitting there and I'm like, guys, why are they calling a timeout? This is 3rd and 4. Like, because my opinion is this. Why didn't you run the ball? To me, it's because here it gets even better. On the flip side, let's say the Chiefs had scored a touchdown and then you had the ball and it's 3rd and 4. That's 4 down territory. I would have gone for it. I would have run the ball on 3rd and 4. I would have got ballsy. Both kickers made 55-plus yard field goals in this Super Bowl.
That's what Grant Cohn said too, and I completely agree.
Yep. It wasn't like you were like, well, they may not get a 55-yard. No. Both kickers showed that they could go the distance. So if you're
Here's a stat. Do you know that field goal? Sorry to interrupt. I'm really sorry. But do you know that field goal? The 50-plus yard field goal mark, with the record for the field goals in the Super Bowl was broken. The longest field goal in the Super Bowl was broken twice last night.
Yep.
Yeah.
First by Jake Moody and then Harrison Butker a couple minutes later. But here's the joke. If you're playing for the field goal game, why I just don't understand, because the thing is I believe Kyle Shanahan settling for the field goal there was basically saying, we think our defense is good enough to actually stop Patrick Mahomes from getting to the field goal marker. And I think that's foolish. I would have gone for it. So if I would have gone for it, I would have called a timeout and figured out how can we scheme this to where it's a 4th and short. This is an offense full of talent, and Jawan Jennings is your target on 3rd and 4. I just want to leave it there. He played a good game. Don't get me wrong, but Ayuk, McCaffrey, Kittle, Samuel, why weren't any of those guys?
Well, and here's the thing. So after the game, was I interrupting again? Sorry. After the game, we first thing gave Kittle like 3 targets for like 2 yards.
And
after the game, he was peeved.
He was like basically mauling people all game long.
Yeah, and he was peeved after the game. He really was. He was visibly pissed.
Yep.
Because he's 30 years old, and he knows that he might not be back.
Yep.
And so Kyle Shanahan, after the game in his press conference, said, Grant Cohn asked him, why didn't you run the ball in the 3rd quarter? Just straight up. It was kind of a rude question, but it was like, why didn't you run the ball in the 3rd quarter? And he said, I did. We just got in 3rd and long situations. So I just want to bring up some of I have on ESPN, I have the play-by-play, and then I wrote some of the plays down. So on the first drive of the 3rd quarter, okay? So the beginning of the 3rd quarter, they got a pick on Mahomes. They had a short field, right? That drive, the drive that they had a short field pick on Mahomes. This is the play-by-play. Just what they did. Pass, and then Aaron Banks had a full start, pass again, and a scramble by Purdy on a 3rd and 13, right?
Yep.
Okay? Then they had to punt because they were out of field goal range on that interception drive.
On the interception.
The next drive, they obviously held the Chiefs because our defense was really good for most of this game. They held the Chiefs to a punt. The next drive, pass, 3 and out.
Yep.
Okay? Then you can go down. I don't know if I have
2 possessions is enough. 2 possessions takes up. If 2 possessions, if each team has 2 possessions in the 3rd quarter, I mean, normally 4 possessions in a quarter is the end of the quarter. I don't care what you say, Kyle Shanahan. Keep going.
Well, and then it's like the next drive, I believe, was a punt as well, if I'm not mistaken. So that's all the 3rd quarter. Yep. That's the whole 3rd quarter. And there were so many times in this game that they didn't. It's just like at the end of this game, I'm trying to just 3rd and 4, there was the blitz. I will give credit because the Chiefs, the blitz by McDuffie on that 3rd and 4, that 3rd and 4 you were talking about, that was a really timely blitz. And I saw that a lot during this game. Really, really good blitzes that were dialed up by the Chiefs that they knew that the 49ers wouldn't be expecting at those times. But there was a good comment here saying, I'm trying to find it. Kyle had Purdy in empty sets or shotgun and had no help to block. Jones was unblocked. That's really what the Chiefs took advantage of. That's really what they took advantage of, was they, on those plays where there was an empty set, they always called a blitz on this one. And then in overtime, just quickly, this is a little long-winded, but just to quickly give some more of the game flow of the game. Overtime, the first drive, the first sequence of plays that we had was a pass, then a full start, then another pass, and then obviously we got that penalty that moved us to the first down. And so we didn't run the ball down the stretch here, and that was a big reason why. And that's on Kyle Shanahan completely. Now, I'm not saying that I think 80% was on Kyle Shanahan, but I'm not saying that it was all on Kyle Shanahan. Trent Williams played terrible in this game. He had a holding call and a full start at the beginning of this game, back-to-back plays. He was terrible in this game. And he a few times got put on his ass. Christian McCaffrey obviously was good, but had that fumble.
Yeah, but he
played pretty well. He played pretty well. But I do want to point out that Logan Ryan was terrible. He started at nickelback corner, and he was the reason why we lost the game. On the final play when they won, it was the final play. They basically fake motioned. They did where the receiver for them, Cole Hardman, pretended to motion across the defense and then went back. And the 49ers were playing press man-to-man, obviously. but Logan Ryan was on Mecole Hardman, kind of followed Mecole Hardman around a little bit. Well, at first he was on Travis Kelce, and then Travis Kelce motioned or went to block on the inside. It was a fake handoff, I believe, and then it left Logan Ryan one-on-one versus Mecole Hardman, the exact same play that the Packers did in one touchdown that they had a few weeks against us. And so it's like he played terrible. I don't know why he was even on the field. I don't know why he was starting over Ambry Thomas, but yeah, that's a long sequence of stuff, but
31 total running plays and 14 in the first half, and it just didn't seem enough. Like 31 runs in a normal game is quite a bit, and it just didn't seem enough. I think that they had an opportunity to control the game. They didn't. I see a comment here by 49er Game Podcast, because I do want to come to actually Ray McLeod's. I'm going to actually be Ray McLeod's best friend today. When I saw that fumble, I thought the guy should never play another snap of football again. And then I saw the replay where it bounced off of a player's foot. You can't make that stuff up. I know as players, you're supposed to dive on the ball, but he was pointing at the football. He was saying like dead ball, no one touch it. It was a freak accident with the heel. He did what he was supposed to do. It just didn't work out. But I really just think it's all about setting a precedent and setting the tone. And Waruna Pereira has a really good comment here. Surprised by big time playmakers making mistakes. It was one of those games.
But the Chiefs also made mistakes.
Well, and I will say this, and that's why
they had 5 fumbles in this game, and I think we only recovered 1.
And this is where I think it's important, and this is why I'm really just eating into the coaching staff. I get it. The players have got to perform, but where was Deebo Samuel? There, you can't tell me that he was just open all the time and Purdy wasn't throwing to him. In fact, quite the opposite. I thought Purdy had with Ayuk. I thought there were some throws Purdy made last night that were, absolutely dead on, and there wasn't a lot of throws that I felt like Purdy made that were bad. But why in the world? Where was Deebo Samuel? Like the fact, and I get it because Christian McCaffrey is your offense, and rightfully so. But the fact that he was your leader in receiving yards should be a concern. You've got Ayuk and Samuel, and I don't feel like especially Samuel was used at all. I feel like for whatever. Now, I know Samuel had, and here's the deal. This is the difficult part. Samuel did pull his hamstring, and it was hard to know how much of that was affecting the game. But you can't tell me that before then. He wasn't
that productive.
Yeah, I just know this is a long-winded topic one, but this is on Kyle. This is on Kyle. The third quarter was about the worst coach third quarter I've seen. You and I talked about weeks leading up to this game multiple times. They've got to establish the run. If they're up, they've got to make sure that they don't give up. They were up by 10 points. Guess who was also up by 10 points a year ago to yesterday? The Eagles, 24-10. You've got to use those templates. You can't just say we're up by 10 points. Stick with the game plan. Run the ball. Even up until the fumble with McCaffrey in the first drive, they were running, not just running. They were running successfully. Why did that change? I don't know, but you can't just go away from it.
They were gashing them.
And I want to go back to what Raruna says here now again. If you want to beat the Chiefs, you need to play your A+ game, cannot afford mistakes, rest we're not going to call holding penalties. Casey wanted to win more than the Niners. I agree with everything because here's the deal, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn with the Eagles. The reason why the Eagles beat the Chiefs back in the earlier part of the season, it was a very flawless game. Now, they came back and they had their little thing, but like you've got to play flawless or hope that the Chiefs don't have an off game. And against the Eagles, the Chiefs had an off game. You can't win. Andy Reid is too talented to play to F around and find out.
Well, and also Kyle Shanahan, let me just say that it's a systematic problem with this team. I was actually, my phone is here and I took a screenshot because this was a great comment that a person made. And let me just quickly read this comment and then we'll get to the comments in the chat because I know that there are a lot of you guys. I apologize if we don't get all of them today. But we'll try our best to get all of them. So this is actually he is in the chat. The Sentinels football channel said, and this was on my phone right here, but this was a comment that he made on my video earlier today. He said, "Bro, I feel so blessed to have seen my team win in 94. That was the first and last time I've seen this team win a Super Bowl. So please use my experience as a guide to how we can win a Super Bowl. This is the systematic issue with Kyle Shanahan, within Kyle Shanahan. He's a glorified offensive coordinator, not a head coach. Also, previous owner went 5-0 in the Super Bowl in 23 years owning the team. His sister, brother-in-law, and nephew have now owned the team for 23 years and have gone 0-3 in the Super Bowl." Hold on. "They're part of the problem within the organization, too. We've become, if not already, have become the West Coast Dallas Cowboys. We need new ownership who want to win and don't look at the team as an investment. That's what owners of poverty franchises do. Set it and forget it type attitudes. We need a new head coach that coaches like a head coach, not a glorified offensive coordinator. I've been saying this since 2018. I feel for you, kid. I really do. Trust us older fans. Above 30 a little. We're not haters. We just know what a Super Bowl head coach looks like. That's all." And so this is my point, right? The 49ers, their players wanted to win, but their coach has not. And we said this, I said it with this other guy before the game. If Kyle Shanahan loses this game, this is the biggest legacy game. And if he loses this game, he should get fired. But you know why he won't get fired? Because our team is popular. Our team is making a bunch of money. We're popular. People are going to buy the jerseys. But so we are the Dallas Cowboys, but we're the I'd rather be a Dallas Cowboys fan, right? Because at least the Dallas Cowboys don't have any hope. They know that they don't have any. They try to tell themselves that they're going to make the Super Bowl, but they know deeply in their heart that they don't have any hope, right? The 49ers, at least our fans, they get hope and they get heartbroken because we make it far. So anyways.
No, I mean, that's a really good, it's a really, I mean, I will say this, and it's the reason why, I mean, of course, you can play the what if game because Andy Reid has a special place in my heart just because he was an Eagles coach and he coached so well for so many years, but he doesn't F around. There's no time to play cute, right? I loved the little pass to Juwan Jennings who threw it to McCaffrey. This is cool. This is really cool. But there's a time to be cute and cool, and then there's a time to be just smash mouth, we're going to run the ball down your throat. I didn't see that style of offense, and I think it's a style of offense that the 49ers were very capable of running and just didn't last night.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I think there's a lot of good comments. We can address a few of them. We can go on to topic number 2. I mean, there's some really solid ones. There's
well, we're guys, we're going to try to get the comments as best as we can. If we don't get all of them, I really apologize, guys, but we have a lot to talk about today, and so we'll read them out. I don't mind getting the ball first. Defense was gas, but they needed to go for it as Mahomes was going to get his TD.
This is a good point. The defense was gassed, but
the defense was. I will say.
I think.
But here's the thing. They didn't know the rules. The 49ers players after the game said that the coach hadn't explained to them the rules. That is another thing that is absolutely effed up with this team.
That's so concerning. But also, I have to say this. I actually think you take the ball second, and I think that this is going to be a template other teams lose, and here's the reason why. Not lose. Because I think that even if your defense is gassed, you would rather know what you're up against than play because they wouldn't have kicked a field goal. That's the thing. To me, I think other teams are going to see this game and they're going to actually defer the ball in the playoffs. Mark my words, it'll happen. You're going to see more people defer it just because they want to know what they're up against.
Mm-hmm.
So
4 plays made all the difference. 1 didn't capitalize on the turnovers. Moody missed the extra point. Yes, that has been a big difference for him this year, and he's had troubles with extra points last 2 weeks ago as well. Ray screwed up the punt return, trying to pick it up instead of just falling on it. Yep.
I defended him. I still
I honestly don't think it was completely his fault. That was a little bit of a luck issue, and I don't think that
I
was
think
the
that's just a
end
fluke.
all
One of
be
those
all play because we still had chances after that. So, O-line was trash last night. Yep. Let's see here. Philip Sellers coming in. He is a Green Bay Packers fan. I always take the ball second in OT. What the fuck was your coach thinking? That is where y'all really threw.
Yep.
Chiefs made mistakes, but they have Mahomes. Y'all don't. Y'all don't. Yeah, we don't. We don't. That's true. It's Mahomes. I mean, when we scored a field goal last night in overtime, I knew this game was over. I knew it.
Yeah,
I knew it.
I didn't like that call at all.
If you want to beat Chiefs, you need to play your A+ game, cannot afford mistakes. Refs were not going to call holding penalties. KC wanted the win more than the Niners. I think our players did. I think our just coaches were effed up at the end of that game.
And again, there's a reason why the Eagles won the Super Bowl against the Patriots. You have to be ballsy. On 3rd and 4, you go for it. And I hate to say it, and I know it's easy to say it now, but I know people would have criticized him. I wouldn't have.
Yeah. 100%. Should have known the rules.
Yeah, that was complete BS.
You learn so much from going second. You have to go second. Yeah, that is true. Tom Brady, Antoine Cleveland says Tom Brady is the only person who can say he beat Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl unless there's a better team to beat him. Yep. Yeah, that is true actually, because he's been there 4 times and he's only lost to Tom.
It's almost damn near incredible because with an actual offense, this is not even a close game. The Bucks lose. I mean, he was under pressure. Mahomes was literally launching cannons left, right, and center off of like his pinky toe because he couldn't stay on the ground. That Super Bowl was arguably one of the craziest defensive performances when it comes to a quarterback just never, ever being in the pocket at all. The game plan was literally fluster the F out of Mahomes, and it worked. And that's why Tom Brady got that Super Bowl.
Yeah, 100%. Can I bring one thing? In 2011, we got Jim Harbaugh and made it to the NFC Championship game, but how? You need a roster capable, right? We have the roster. Cut out the head coach, elevate Brian Griese to OC. I don't think that's a good idea about Brian Griese, but here's the thing. We do have the roster, though. This roster from top to bottom, Joseph, come on. From the 2019 team, this roster was better. Okay, that is true, but this roster was better than the 2019 team. We had Christian McCaffrey, we had Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel. Every single aspect of this offense was better, except the tight end position. And I would even argue that the O-line was better than in 2019.
But you don't fire, and here's the deal, and I know every fan's going to be upset.
But all you have to do is run the ball, and you negate
because you don't fire Kyle Shanahan after making it to the Super Bowl. As much as every 49ers fan wants to kill him right now, it would be like me saying fire. I fully believe he is 90% of the reason why they lost this game. However,
Belichick,
a loser's mentality would be to fire him right now. You've got to run it back next year. And if he absolutely fumbles the bag, you've got to fire him next year. I think we're going to have to hop on a show and just talk about head coaching. I think that there could be like half the league could be on the hot seat next year. And I'm not even joking. The amount of teams that could very well see the Bills, the Eagles, the Packers, even probably not the Packers, but the Bills, the Eagles, the Cowboys, there is a slew of teams that could literally be on the hot seat if they don't. And I think even up to 10 coaches, which is wild because 6 were already new. So that if 10 coaches get fired, you could see half of the freaking league in 2 years with new head coaches. And to answer Philip Sellers' question, I did not mean to say the Packers. The Packers are not looking for a head coach next year.
Oops, my bad. Sorry.
But we probably should move on because we've been very animated about this topic number 1. But topic number 2 is sort of the same. So
so do you want to get to Brock Purdy first?
Yeah, and I feel like we sort of answered topic number 2.
Yeah. So we don't have to spend long on this.
No.
But I will say that with him, it's like what they were doing with him was they were playing in the first half. He did really well. The end of the first drive, I'm trying to think here. The end of the first drive, he the McCaffrey fumble. He was playing the end of the first drive
Yep.
really well at the end of that in that first drive. The Chiefs in that first half threw a lot of zone at Brock Purdy. They were basically trying to I don't think they were blitzing as much in that first half. They were throwing a lot of zone at him. They weren't trying to get beat over they were just playing. They were trying to feel the offense out a little bit. And they were trying to basically figure out what the 49ers were going to do. And then the second half, they played a lot more press man-to-man, and they were blitzing. Basically, every single time that it was third and long, which there was a lot of third and longs because there was quite a few drives where there were penalties, false starts, whatever. Every time it was a third and long, they would pin their ears back, play single high safety, blitz, play press man-to-man, because they knew that the only player on this offense that can get open one-on-one is Brandon Ayuk, not Deebo Samuel.
Yep.
And so the only receiver on this offense. And they knew that the 49ers weren't looking for George Kittle this whole game. And so they knew that once in the first half, they kind of felt out the offense a little bit. And then in the second half, they did a lot better of a job of kind of systematically shutting the Niners down. And then obviously with Brock Purdy, it's like second drive, Trent Williams, like I said before, had 2 penalties. So there were a lot of drives in this game where, other players around him failed him. That overtime drive, he played really well. He scrambled out, made an amazing throw to Kyle Juszczyk.
That was a phenomenal
He played an efficient game. He missed a few throws, but who doesn't? He still is a second-year quarterback. He didn't turn the ball over. And we were saying with the Jimmy Garoppolo thing a few years ago is if he doesn't turn the ball over, Kyle Shanahan this has been their whole quota for being a quarterback on the 49ers. If you don't turn the ball over, we will win. And this was the first time that we've actually lost, and Brock Purdy has not turned the ball over. So he played a really good game, and the Chiefs were plastering him at the line of scrimmage, and that is part of the reason why it looks sloppy at times. But go ahead. So I think,
I just think the blame can't be entirely put on him. I will say that, at the end of the day, he's got to make reads, but there was, first of all, I saw a lot less pre-snap motions than typical than I thought. I mean, I feel like they ran pre-snap motions like every play normally, and I know that's a little bit of an exaggeration. I didn't feel like there was as many pre-snap motions.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Around a 60% completion rate. That's not terrible. I just feel like it's a tough one because I still go back and forth on the McCaffrey thing because McCaffrey could have been used more, but also is he the reason why the other stars weren't used as much?
Yeah.
He was your offense. I saw a lot of really good things from Brandon Ayuk. I really think if their goal is to not try to re-sign him this year, I think he's going to probably be one of the higher paid wide receivers next year just because he's just that good. He's not in the top 5 category yet, but he is a phenomenal route runner and probably will get top 5 money next year if they don't re-sign him. There's a part of me that thinks they may not, but they'd be fools not to. They've got really big decisions to make. I just think that right now, the biggest thing they have to do is they have to go into this offseason going, how can we utilize our skill set players better in the playoffs, especially if they're going to make a run again. But they've also got to invest in the O-line. They cannot afford to have Trent Williams miss a game. When was it Banks? Is it your left guard or your right guard? When he went out.
Left guard.
Left guard. When your left guard went out, it was a clear hole. It wasn't just bad. It was terrible.
Didn't he come back though?
He did, but they even in the place he was not playing, you could see oh my word, this O-line is not capable of having a backup even remotely play decent. And I'm spoiled because the Eagles have one of the best O-lines and their depth is insane. But they have got to invest in O-line this year. And the thing is this, because the truth is you're right. They do have a very good team, but without an investment in the O-line, and they have 11 picks. I'm not saying, if I were them, I would invest your first pick in the O-line. That's just my opinion.
No, me too. Me too.
I would invest your first pick and I'd invest your third pick. I'd have probably 2 of your first 4 picks being an O-line. And that's just because I think they've got to build in the trenches if they want to keep Brock Purdy up. And because he cannot be your trajectory of a quarterback can be very much stifled by having an absolute terrible O-line, and they have neglected it for far too long. So I know that's sort of like a little bit off the topic, but I don't believe.
I love what you brought up there. Yeah, keep going.
I don't believe Brock Purdy is at fault for losing the Super Bowl. He didn't turn the ball over. Yes, the truth is he didn't have multiple passing touchdowns, but guess what? On 3rd and 4, you didn't call a timeout. Like it is. If he had thrown 2 interceptions and they had lost this game, I could sit here and I could point the finger that he made some mad mistakes. I don't believe he was even 20% of the reason why they lost this game. And I'm saying this from someone who does not like the 49ers. I just don't think Purdy played bad enough to even I was really heavy on on Kyle Shanahan coming into this game because I saw what he did in 2020 and how he absolutely botched the fact that they should have won the Super Bowl. And that was with Garoppolo. And I made one clear thing, consistent play calling. And that just didn't happen. So,
yep, yeah. 100%.
So,
let's see here. I feel like we already covered this topic. So,
yeah. I will say Travis Kelce had 2 really big catches towards the end of the game. Their stars came out to play, and then people like Mecole Hardman held up their end of the bargain. And I will say that's a rarity because I want to quickly focus on this just briefly because the question is, what did the Chiefs do right? And I think here's the thing. We could also ask, what did they not do in this game that they did for 85% of the season? And that was the fact that in this game, their receivers, for the most part, held up their end of the bargain. There was a portion of this season that looked like the Chiefs were going to be one and done because of how absolutely horrible their receivers were. And I want to say this right now. The fact that they went into Buffalo, went into Baltimore, and then beat the 49ers shows you what good coaching can do. Because I'm not saying this Chiefs team is bad, but if you look on paper at this Chiefs team, they are not great. Their defense is good. Their O-line they've got some talent, but they are not the 49ers when it comes to the talent. And look what they did and who they beat. Like the 49ers beat the Packers and the Lions. The Chiefs beat the Ravens, the Bills, and then beat the 49ers in the Super Bowl. What they did with their team, and their team is talented. Don't get me wrong. I do not want to, for the moment, take away what the talent is on this Chiefs team. However, what they did with what they had, I think goes to show you what good coaching can do. Because Andy Reid and Spags and all those coaches, but especially Spags and Andy Reid, I think the world of both of them. Fun fact, they're also both have time in Philly. But both of those guys coached their asses off, especially in the playoffs, but specifically this game. And it showed, and there's a reason why one of them is Super Bowl champions today. So that's just
and Calvin Hobbs brings up a great point, saying Greenlaw was blanketing Kelce, but Burks got torched. Really true. Really true.
I mean, and let's be real. This is a backup. Like I know Burks plays a lot of first team defense, but like I would not.
Well, not really, because the system we play is a lot of nickel corner.
Yeah,
so
a lot of
the third linebackers never in.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, this is. Like, it just goes back to say it, like, injuries are going to happen, but, like, so much of this is putting your players in better positions. I think that's probably why Ryan was playing more is because of the Greenlaw injury.
Yeah.
You didn't want to throw Burks out there as much, probably as a third linebacker.
Yeah, but then we also saw Isaiah Oliver, our other nickel.
Yeah.
I think the big reason why Logan Ryan was playing in this game, the reason why Isaiah Oliver was playing in this game was because Greenlaw was out.
Yeah,
but the reason why Logan Ryan was playing in this game is we didn't trust. What we did is we moved Lenore to the outside and we put Logan Ryan at the nickel position instead of Lenore on the inside and Ambry Thomas on the outside. And Ambry's a younger player. He tends to hold a little bit, but I would have still left Ambry out there.
I will have to say it worked for a majority of the game. I mean, you only allowed 25 points.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Our defense really wasn't the huge problem in this game. Yeah. If Steve Wilkes is the scapegoat to this loss, I am going to start a riot.
No, I thought I thought after he coached a really bad game, I thought he actually came back and redeemed himself, because the Lions game was not a game you want to be proud of as a coach.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
In my opinion, a player like Brock Purdy doesn't deserve a coach like Kyle. Brock is one of the most ride and die QBs I've seen in this era. He will take that hit if it means throwing a dot. Yeah. I mean, the Deebo Samuel pass that got broken up early in that game, he got absolutely.
He's going to break an arm with the level of intensity he plays with, because he is fearless. I will say that all changes when you sign a big contract. So I mean, serious. Like home slice is literally playing for bread right now, and this changes a lot. So
yeah, for sure. Let's see here. Okay, so kind of some players that stood out. We can quickly rapid fire this. This was supposed to be a mental rapid fire question. Do you want to start, or should I?
Yeah, Chris Jones. I think we've talked about him enough.
Oh yeah.
And I will say this: in big games, your stars should show up, and he did. I want to throw out a star that no one really talks about ever, and is absolutely never in the news at all. And that's Patrick Mahomes. No, I mean, he showed up. Patrick Mahomes held up his end of the bargain. I know a lot of people would have expected that, but let's be honest. He could very well have had a 1 interception game and lost this game, and people would have been saying how good of a quarterback he is, but he actually shook that off and had a good game and led a really good drive at the end. There was third downs that they converted. I want to just briefly explain to everyone that I know this is going to be crazy, but they both had 23 and 24 first downs respectively, but the Chiefs went 9 for 19 on third down, and the 49ers went 3 for 12. And that's why you lose games in the playoffs. I also want to highlight a 49ers player. I thought Christian McCaffrey played really well, and I thought that he could have been fed the ball more, and I think this game would have been a little different. Those are my 3 guys. I mean, I know it's sort of oxymoron to say Patrick Mahomes because he's won Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah.
I didn't think any player last night jumped out as oh my God, without him, they would have lost. For either, I know the 49ers lost, but what I'm saying is I didn't feel it was so difficult to pick a Super Bowl MVP. So you knew it was going to be the QB. Because even Mecole Hardman, great catch, dude. But that was
he won it. He won it. Okay. I didn't even watch the trophy presentation.
Yeah, no, I didn't either, but I was driving home and I was and I checked it when I got home, but the biggest thing for me is there wasn't to me a jump out. There are some Super Bowls where you're if this guy doesn't win it, it's a crime. I didn't feel like that was one. This was one of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Patrick's. Well, someone said if we win Centennials football, I have to throw this up there. Said if we win the Super Bowl, MVP is Juwan Jennings. Yeah, if he catches that touchdown on 3rd and 4, that was supposed to really go to him, but they schemed that literally the worst scheme ever. But no, those are my 3 guys. The one that really stood out to me, and it seems a little redundant because he's such a good player, but Chris Jones played his ass off last night, and it showed. And I think that he changed the game. And all you have to do is affect one play towards the end of the game, and you'll be remembered. And I will remember this Super Bowl as the Super Bowl that they failed on 3rd and 4 because Chris Jones absolutely sent your lineman to the grave.
Yeah. Well, and to just show how dominant both defenses were in the first half, the 49ers in the first half had 22 snaps in the red zone, and the Chiefs had 16, which isn't very much in the red zone. Yep. I'll go to the other side. Eric Armstead in this game was really, a big concern was the Chiefs are going to try to gash the 49ers in the run game up the middle. The 49ers are terrible. And they just don't have a lot of guys who can stop the run in the middle of their defensive line. The scheme in this game was really well. They were doing exactly what the 49ers. I do want to give Steve Wilkes credit because he was doing a lot of 5-man fronts. He was the linebackers were doing a nice job of clogging up the middle, picking their right gaps, playing very disciplined. Chase Young played a lot better in this game. And Eric Armstead, I thought had 2 sacks. It only registers as 1, but played an insane game in this. The whole defensive line was really good. But they did lose contain of Patrick Mahomes at the end there. And I don't know. I don't know if you can really blame them.
But I never blame the defense for an overtime touchdown.
Well, the thing is the fact that the Chiefs were able to only score 3 points in the first half. The 49ers offense, and I don't want to go back to this topic because we've already done it all, but I'll quickly say the 49ers offense, they're supposed to be elite. If the Chiefs score 3 points, I don't care how good
this game should be over.
I don't care how good the Chiefs defense is. This game should be.
But I keep saying this. This is a 24-10 game. Eagles Chiefs last year, and that wasn't enough. So why don't you use that template? Like, that is a template to use. Choke, literally put your foot on their necks and continue to choke them out. You don't just take your foot off of it. You got to finish the job. And they just didn't. It's super. If you're a 49ers fan, you should be disappointed because it wasn't like your team just got outclassed. There's a reason why it went to overtime. They weren't outclassed. Coaching should have put this game to rest, but they didn't. Anyways, enough of that.
Let's see here. Before we move on, Niners defense held up. It was the offensive play calling. Yeah.
I can agree that. Yep.
Sentinels football channel. That was Calvin's Hobbs. And having unfair advantage argument because it was pre-cap. Wait, hold on. Maybe
there was a comment made earlier.
Yeah. The Chiefs have an owner who wants to win, and they'll manipulate the system to work it for them. Fact is, if you really want it bad enough, you don't make excuses.
Yep.
Having unfair advantage argument because it was pre-cap is like the league getting mad at the Niners for our success with comp picks. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Yep. Did you see that last week with the comp picks? How people were complaining about that is so bullshit.
I mean, the league created that rule. Either get rid of the rule, but don't hate the Niners for taking advantage of it. I mean, and I've got to be honest with you. Like, Steve Wilkes is going to make a good head coach one day. DeMeco Ryans is a freaking great head coach. The 49ers should be rewarded for the NFL created this rule. So why not, I'm glad it's working out. It's awesome. So, yeah.
I should have said Chris Conley because he had a really good game as well.
Oh my gosh, that guy was literally like, I was like, man, this guy exists.
He downed when he freaking nailed the dude. I think it was at the 9-yard line on a punt return, and then
downed the punt at like the 2-yard line. Was just sitting there waiting for the punt, and like, this dude's.
Well, our punter's really good at doing that.
Yeah.
So, he's one of the best in the league.
Yeah, I think Conley actually is an unsung hero for the losers team. Played very good.
Yeah, for sure. So let's get to Hassan Reddick. Well, do you want to get to, I don't know. We didn't do these comments. Like, I'm kind of, as we go along, kind of seeing which one is more fitting for the moment. Do you want to stick on the Chiefs or do Hassan Reddick of the Eagles?
Yeah, let's do Hassan Reddick last. Let's just do, let's just move to the last topic. Let's do it.
Players that the Chiefs will target in free agency to make their team even better. There's different ways they could go with this. I don't know if you have the cap number pulled up in front of you, but
22. Yeah. I think this is really difficult because they're going to restructure people. They're going to front load. They're going to front load and back load some contracts. Right now that the reports are saying they have around 22 million. This is probably going to change overnight if it's not already changed since, but right now, you can do a decent amount with 22 million. I would expect them to be players for some free agents. Chiefs fans hate to burst your bubble. L'Jarius Sneed's not coming back. He's going to net a top cornerback market with the Philadelphia Eagles. No, but I mean, in reality, you're just not going to be able to get him back. You bet if you want a cornerback, invest in a guy like a Trent McDuffie, who, you're going to get a good. There's a lot of cornerbacks I think you can go after that. Probably won't be L'Jarius Sneed level, but let's also not kid ourselves. This Chiefs defensive line was actually very underrated this year, and their linebackers are too. So I don't want to take anything away from L'Jarius Sneed, but he's not coming back. I I mean, I have an opinion. I think they're going to go after receivers. There's an interesting one that sticks out to me. So, of course, you've got like Marquise Brown, T. Higgins, Calvin Ridley, Gabe Davis. All these guys are going to get their contracts. There is quite a few big name receivers, so I'm curious to see how many of them actually get large contracts. Typically, when you have
Michael Pittman is what I would go after.
Who?
Michael Pittman. Imagine him
he's
with
another
Mahomes.
one. The biggest thing is there's so many big receivers. I'm curious how many of them are going to take 1-year deal to score next year in free agency. And the reason why I say that is because typically when there's like 2 receivers, you see them both get big contracts. But because there's like 5 to 6 starting level like wide receiver ones, and this is assuming none of their teams bring them back, which I think is ridiculous because a lot of them will. One that I think is going to stand out, and I could see the Chiefs totally making him a wide receiver one, is Tyler Boyd. He is such an unsung hero in that Bengals offense. He is the wide receiver 3. I don't think he's a wide receiver 1, but I think he'd make a really solid wide receiver. It'd be a step up from everyone in that current room that the 49ers have. I just think that Chiefs. I just think the Chiefs don't have the cap to play with some of the big names like T. Higgins, Calvin Ridley, those 2 guys, and Michael Pittman. I just don't think they have the cap to be able to play unless one of those guys says, you know what? F it. I want a ring. I'm going to sign for like $11 million and net the bag in free agency next year. That's a possibility. Another thing they have to make priority is offensive tackle. Donovan Smith is a free agent. I would imagine they'd work to try to bring him back because they like to build from within. But I did see a report saying that there's a real chance that they just let this one go and they draft someone. So it's just a tough one because you still get a first-round pick and they have players. The Chiefs are going to build from within for sure, so I don't see them making a ton of big splashes. But I will say this Chiefs offense has not been the same since Tyreek Hill left. I'd be shocked if they don't at least mull the wide receiver market either in draft or very heavily in free agency.
Sorry to interrupt. I want to ask you a question. Do you think they go after Mike Evans? That would be insane.
I think it's a perfect if he leaves Tampa, which I think he doesn't want to, but I think it's a perfect. What I'm trying to say is when you're this good, players will sign. This is what happened with Bradbury last year. And I not 2 years ago. And I want to say this because Bradbury was very good 2 years ago. Like he was a all-pro cornerback for a reason. Whether it was the system, I don't care. What I'm trying to say is if players think they have a chance of getting a ring, they will take a 1-year deal like CJ Gardner-Johnson did for the Eagles and the Lions. They'll take those 1-year deals in efforts to get a big bag next year. So I could see someone like, don't be surprised if a big name like Calvin Ridley or T. Higgins comes to the Chiefs because they want a ring, and they come for that year to hopefully get a ring and then net a 5-year, $100 million contract once they've gotten a 1,200-yard season with one of the best quarterbacks of all time. So, like, this is what happens. The rich get richer because players want to win a Super Bowl. And it's someone even said, I saw an article today, I think it may have been ESPN article or Bleacher Report, like even a trade, like the Broncos, I don't think the Broncos would trade to a division rival. I just don't see it happening. But the Broncos are looking to get rid of Jerry Jeudy. And if you could get him for a 2nd-round pick, I mean, by gosh, what a receiver that would be. So, those are my thoughts on who they could target. But I will say this: don't be surprised if they have 1 or 2 big names, just because these players want to win a Super Bowl. And what better of a team to go to?
I will say that, even though he's injury prone, I would go after Tyron Smith of the Cowboys, who is a tackle as well.
Yeah, for
he won't. I mean, that's not much. $5-6 million. He signed for a $5-6 million deal last year, I believe it was. So
he'd be a good veteran if you want to go that route for sure.
I mean, I would replace both tackles. I think Jawan Taylor was an absolute fraud this year.
Oh, it's ridiculous. But here's the deal: it worked. Like we can complain all day long. They won the Super Bowl. No one else
That's true.
Everyone's laughing now because the thing is this: I criticized that move, and I also criticized the Donovan Smith move. He's going to net the bag in free agency, whether it's with them or with someone else, and like it worked. So I don't know. I mean, I don't want to take away from the fact how incredible the Chiefs run was. This was a
Yeah.
team that beat literally every Super Bowl like top guy team.
And I just want to say to all the people saying that the Super Bowl is rigged, I don't know how you could say that.
Yeah,
I just want to quickly say this: the refs, if anyone's saying it's rigged, the refs were actually like they let the players play, even though our defensive
they
linemen
did.
were getting held a ton. I saw it, and I was a little pissed, but they stayed consistent. The biggest problem that we've had with the refs this year is they don't stay consistent calling during the game. And so
Yeah.
they stayed consistent during this game. They weren't really calling a ton. And when they did, it was pretty obvious, an obvious penalty. I think it was a decently called game. And unless you believe the players are getting paid off, then yeah, I don't think it was
And
rigged.
I wanna show this because this is going to be a big comment that's going to come up over the next year and a half. So stability among coaching is something that is craved, and this comment hits it on the head. How stable the Chiefs are with coaching with Spags not going anywhere, but the Niners keep getting rated. And you could look at this two ways. You could look at this saying, look, the Niners are just pumping out really good coaches, which is true. But there is going to become this common theme that I think is going to grow. The Eagles just did it with Vic Fangio. Teams are going to look for people who are just not wanting to head coach anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
and here's the deal. It's working with the Chiefs. It doesn't always work, and we're debatable to whether it's going to work with the Eagles. Vic Fangio does not want to take a head coaching gig. Don't be surprised if a lot of moves over the next couple of years are looking to get the guys that have been in the league for a while, that have either coached before and just don't want the stretch of a head coach, but are good at their profession. Don't be surprised if something like that happens. And so we're seeing it with Spags, and it's the reason why this Chiefs defense was so good. He doesn't want to go anywhere. I'm sure teams would probably like to have him as a head coach, but he knows better. He knows that if he wants to keep winning, this is his gig. And I think it's something you're going to see more often. So
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And when people, I mean, the defensive the defensive coach is definitely the guy who gets less praise. But when people look back at this game and how many stops that defense made down the stretch,
yeah, it's
people are going to
impressive.
look at Spagnuolo and all the
Yep.
blitzes that he dialed up at the right time. So Ken Fox coming in here a little bit mad, saying y'all are crazy. Fire Kyle.
Yeah, we
Okay.
sort of said that earlier. No, just kidding.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's not going to get fired, but even though every 49ers fan wants him to.
Before we get to the final topic, which is about Hassan Reddick, I will say, guys, like and subscribe. It definitely, I don't ask for much, but it definitely helps the channel. So
Check out
definitely
Benjamin.
do
He's
that.
killing it.
And thank you for coming on today because it was a lot. It's been a lot of fun, honestly. It's good to have you here to console me.
Trying my best. This time last year, I wasn't in the greatest place. I was going through the same pain.
Hassan Reddick is seeking a trade from the Eagles. Your takeaways from this news? I know we talked about it a little bit on the phone, but I wanted to bring it to the show. We've been talking about Niners the whole entire show, so I said, let's mix in a little bit of NFL. What's your reaction to this news?
I can't say I'm surprised. This has nothing to do with how the season went. He was one of the bright spots on this defense. He's got 27 sacks in 2 years. He's a year removed from what I believe was a defensive player of the year type season. This was also a defense that had 70 plus sacks, which is still unbelievable. This is where it gets tough. I don't think it has anything to do with the culture because I think Hassan Reddick wants to stay. Brandon Graham is retiring. If he's not retiring, he said he wants to come back for one more year with the Eagles. I think the Eagles now pretty much guaranteed are going to bring him back because he's a good enough guy. He knows the system. He's going to get you 8 sacks, 7 to 8 sacks, which is pretty good for a defensive end. And I say that because if you get 8 sacks from a 33-year-old player, you're doing pretty good. And he's going to be that type of guy. Nolan Smith was drafted in the first round last year to replace Hassan Reddick eventually, but it's also Nolan Smith, a guy who did not look good this year, but also he's a rookie and he was not being utilized. And if I could say anything about our defense this year is don't judge any player that was there, because by God, we had coaches who were evidently didn't know how to coach a middle school team. But with that being said, these are some numbers I want you to keep in mind. The highest paid edge rusher right now is TJ Watt at 28 million. Well, this is a little outdated, but it shows you some of the amounts.
Nick
of
Bosa is 34 million now.
Yeah, he's the highest paid. But you've got TJ Watt, Joey Bosa, Myles Garrett, Khalil Mack, Max Crosby, Bradley Chubb, Von Miller, and Nick Bosa, obviously, all making 20 plus million. And as much as I love a lot of these guys, there is only like 3 players I'd put ahead of Hassan Reddick right now. And that's
over the last 2 years, there's only 3 guys that have had more than him. Did you know?
Yeah, I know. And that's the thing is TJ Watt, I'd put ahead of him, obviously, Myles Garrett and Nick Bosa. But outside of those guys, and I'm not counting Micah Parsons because this is not a comparison. I'm just talking from cap wise. He is not even in the top 10 in edge rushers. And I would rank him ahead of guys in the top 10, like Chandler Jones, Shaquille Barrett, Alex Highsmith, Harold Landry, Cameron Jordan. All of these guys, I just want to say it's the fact that he wants a new contract doesn't make him a selfish player. This guy deserves every bit of the contract. And he's going to get every bit of the contract. And that's what he's looking for. He's on the last year of his deal. He doesn't want to settle for a different contract. What it is I can guarantee you, he does not want to get hurt this year and miss out on that. And so he wants a better contract. And if I'm the Eagles, I like this because you probably can get a 2nd round pick for him, but they'd be fools to not at least try to sign him. They have the cap to do it. It just hinders their ability to do anything else. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but you have Nolan Smith, you have Josh Sweat, you have Brandon Graham. There's a reason why you spend your 1st round on a defensive end / linebacker like Nolan Smith. I just don't see him coming back if he gets a trade partner. And it's because I don't think the Eagles are going to pay him $23 million a year. And I think if you look at some of these guys like TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, and Joey Bosa, and he says, okay, give me something like that, there's a team that will pay it. A team that comes to mind that could very well pay it would be a team like, you name it, any of these defensive hungry teams, even like a team like the Cardinals. I doubt he wants to go back to the team that basically almost destroyed him. But he has shown he's one of the premier pass rushers, and he deserves a payday. It's really painful saying this, though, because he's been such a good player for the Eagles the last 2 years. I think it's one of those things where I don't think people realize how good of a free agent signing this was. He is being paid $14.5 million right now. That's absolutely ludicrous for how much he's done for the Eagles. We've paid him $28 million roughly over the last 2 years, give or take a little bit. And he has generated 27 million sacks. 27 million. I wish. No, 27 sacks in 2 years. And that's not even counting the pressures. I'm pretty sure he had I want to say 35 something pressures in this year alone, maybe. I don't know, some crazy amount. It was huge. So, yeah.
I honestly wish the Niners could get him, but unfortunately, just don't think we have the cap.
No way.
I don't think we have the cap. I will say that he is the one who injured Brock Purdy. I will forever have a vendetta against him.
Yep. That's what happens when you block.
The thing is I think for him, it's like, that's another one of, if we want to talk about Kyle Shanahan's blunders in the playoffs, that is the premium one to talk about. So if you want to get pissed about another Kyle thing that he's done, you point to the Brock Purdy thing. But I will say that for premium pass rushers, a 1st round pick is I'm not going to be surprised by that. And so
yeah, I don't think
you guys have
guys
have a prime opportunity to cash out on this.
Yeah.
And even if you get a high second round pick, that's still great.
I think
You know?
you do it, and you only do it because the fact is you don't have the cap to keep him.
Yeah.
If you keep him, great. If you don't have the cap to keep him, let him seek a trade out now before free agency starts and let him get what you want. And you're probably going to get a second round pick. He's on the last year of his deal. I just think if Chase Young and Montez Sweat both got third and second round picks respectively, I think that you could easily get a second round pick for him. If not, use him as a trade, like a team that wants to go from 12 to 22, trade him and your first round to move up, like something like that. For a team that has the cap. While I'm looking at it, let me see who highest.
Yeah. While he's looking at that, I'll read some of the comments. There's only a few here. Did Jason Kelce take back his retirement? I will say with that, he was having so much fun in the Super Bowl after party last night. I was seeing a video of him with the marshmallow helmet on. I don't know if you know what marshmallow is. And he was like, duh, duh, duh. So, I mean, I'm happy for him because I love Jason Kelce. He's a great dude. But Calvin's Hobbs says they don't call holds in the playoffs, stop investing in the D-line, get better O-linemen, and protect your important player in the quarterback. That is true. And that was a point that I was going to make earlier in the show. I was going to say it's like the 49ers are not a defensive team anymore. They need to not – you said that you think that they should draft 2 offensive linemen within their first 4 picks. And I agree with you because I'm just like, you're a team that now can be less good on defense and invest on your offense more because you've got an MVP quarterback and because you have a guy who is really good. And so I think if you want to make a systematic change, one is maybe not draft so many defensive players. I don't know. And go after them in free agency.
Just go after an O-line.
The dead cap for Javon Hargrave is a lot this year, but I would he's been pretty good for us, but
I
don't know. Yeah. So what were you looking up? Did you find it?
So I think the New Orleans Saints are going to qualify for him. They have a whopping negative $82 million in cap space.
Oh, wow.
No. I was shocked by that. But looking at some cap numbers, the Commanders, the Titans, the Patriots, and the Colts are all in the top 5. 3 of those guys could easily afford a big defensive end, and 3 of those teams definitely need defensive ends. I mean, the Colts could definitely use him. The Titans, absolutely. There is a slew of teams that have the cap and have the ability to with I don't think we trade him to a division rival. I don't think we trade him to the Commanders. I think you'd be an absolute fool to do that. But like Tennessee Titans, New England Patriots, the Colts, the Bears, they're probably not the Bears, but the Cardinals, like there is a list of teams that I think would be willing to give up a second round pick. So have him start reaching out to people now and let's get this ball rolling and have him, Yeah. What I do.
I agree.
So.
I agree. Guys, this has been a very fun show.
Yeah.
The chat was amazing in this show. If you look at all the comments, you guys made this show a show. I couldn't have done it without the fans. We can't do it without the fans. Promote yourself one more time, Joseph, and we'll get out of here. I know you have to go to bed and get up for work. We both have to go to bed. So, although you're 2 hours ahead, so it is 10 your time. So yeah,
this is true. It is getting late. You can find me at the Long John Podcast on Spotify and Apple, as well as the Long John Podcast on Instagram. On Twitter, you can find me at the Long John Pod, as well as TikTok. So check me out and of course on YouTube at the Long John Podcast as well. I'm going to kick things up hopefully in about a month. I'm thinking to get back more into the swing of things right around the start of free agency. If I can free up my schedule a little bit, but it has been an absolute blast. Thank you for having me on this show. And I'm really looking forward to this offseason and all the crazy things that could happen. I think we're in for a whirlwind of change as usual. So.
Yeah, it is a little depressing that there's no more football, but we do have the draft. This
UFL,
channel
baby.
last year covered it. I'm going to cover it again. We have the combine in like 2 weeks or something. We have, or a week, maybe next week. I don't know what it is, but then we have free agency, like you said, and then the draft. So, and obviously I'm sure we'll be doing some mock drafts as well.
Absolutely.
So, guys, have a good rest of your night. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for all the comments. I'll maybe be back this week, but I might just take the next few days to just post some shorts, some clips of this video and chill a little bit, give myself a mental checkout from what just happened yesterday because I'm still in recovery mode. And I hope all the Niners fans out there, I'm with you. The hate is going to be real from the rest of the league. Just you have to power through it. I've seen some Eagles fans commenting on my not viral short, but yesterday there was a short I made with me freaking out, and there were some hate comments in there. I don't even want to read out some of them, but there was this Eagles guy before we get off the live. There was this Eagles dude just clowning us for losing the Super Bowl. And I'm like, you guys lost in the wild card round and we're an embarrassment this year.
Well, last year we got clowned by the 49ers, so I have to say it is karma, unfortunately.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, have a good rest of your night.
Yeah,
stay strong, guys. Niner faithful, and go Eagles. Well, okay, I'm not going to say go Eagles, but you can say go Eagles.
Go Birds, let's get it. This is our year. Yeah. I can feel it.